So for this question, how did you decide how to rank the options?
Okay. Trying to conceive a child, no success, and they've opened up to you. So, again, kind of like acknowledging how that friend who is like frustrated and like probably crying right now and just wants to be heard is feeling, so just acknowledgement. Then I think then I went backwards initially. So by process of elimination. So 5 was comfort them by talking about how difficult it is to raise children, how it limits life. So obviously they don't want to hear that it's hard to have children. Mm-hmm. Like that's not a way to comfort someone. I think number 4 I struggled with a little bit because, or actually all the other ones. So like 2, 3, and 4, I think I would all want to kind of go through. It's just a matter of, I think, which one you should do, and I kind of also interpreted this as temporally. Okay. Like if you had to just choose one, like I would choose 1 first. If I had to just choose the remaining ones, I guess I would choose, like whatever I selected as 2, I would do then. So I guess I felt more strongly about describe your own struggles with becoming pregnant or stories of other couples to help them like hear that they're not alone and like it's okay to be upset, and try to kind of get more information out of them. And then I think then like discuss if you considered other options, which I'm sure they have, but they probably like don't want that to be the first thing you ask them, the acute moment of stress. And then I think you definitely still need to arrange a time to speak with them, but I didn't really like that specific wording because it said to follow up if things haven't improved, but I think it's more important to follow up if things haven't improved.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What experiences, if any, did this question make you think of when you answered it?
Not really any experiences. I mean, I guess it's just like it's kind of like a general. It's kind of like a general example. Like I think a lot of people feel this way. Not certainly not just about like fertility, but just about things that they always keep trying, but like nothing ever works their way. So I think it's just a common like feeling like so much out of their control. Like they can't do anything about it. They're stressed out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like there's nothing they really like. They feel like they can't do.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to ask. Yeah. Is if you thought maybe if the topic wasn't as sensitive or as like medically oriented, if it was just like I've been trying to get into pharmacy school and I can't get in.
Yeah.
How does that impact your response?
I don't think it changes it very much because I think you should still like first acknowledge how they're feeling and empathize with them, then try to talk with them through like how like why they're feeling what they're feeling and kind of like what they've gone through and what they've thought of and if they've like reached out for professional help. Okay. And then like for whatever decision they end up making, trying to support it because you know that have had all the information available, and kind of like they're making their own like informed decision, which is their decision.
Would it make any difference if there was a patient who was talking to you about this?
So maybe only in the way of like as a pharmacist, I'm not like really trained to kind of like walk through a patient like and kind of or walk through like risks and benefits of or at least maybe just like their feelings. Like I feel like maybe there needs to be another like a physician in the room or like a psychiatrist in the room. I feel like talking through some things, like if it were a patient, would be almost outside my scope, and I would not be sure if what I'm saying is helpful or detrimental because I'm not on the training to know if what I'm saying is appropriate or not.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What knowledge or ability do you think this question is testing?
Probably empathy. Empathy, I guess. I honestly wish I had like a list of words to choose from.
I've heard that. That will go with my dissertation for what I wish I would have done. Okay, so for this question, we're halfway through.
Okay.
For this question, how did you decide how to rank these options?
Okay, so speak about chemo to 8-year-old son. Okay, so this one's a little more challenging because I deal with adults, I'm not really sure what the rules, and I have a general idea of like with parents and kids, but I struggled mostly with like, well, if you do reschedule, is the son going to be there still?
Okay.
And I didn't think the son had to because the parents are making the medical decision for their son. So number one, I wanted to ask the parent about their concerns with the medication. So number 1 and 2 were actually really close because I thought it was certainly important to schedule a different time because now is clearly not a good time, and you want to continue to finish, and you want to finish the education thoroughly. So 1 and 2 were definitely really close, but I thought that number 1, ask the parent about their concerns with the medication would be more helpful so you could prepare and more thoroughly address those concerns when you do have schedule another meeting with them. And then number 3, I think 3, 4, and 5 are kind of close. So, well, not really. So 5 was definitely conclude the session and document education has been complete. So that's clearly inappropriate because you haven't thoroughly educated the family. I think then 3 and 4 are probably pretty close. So 3 was a little harsh, but between 3 and 4, yeah, I think you probably just have to emphasize that I really need to tell you and list all the risks, even though they're uncomfortable to hear, just legally. And then eventually you'd probably tell the physician too what happened.
What experiences, if any, did this question make you think of when you answered it?
I guess there have been times, on service, where we, on GenMed, there was one time where we wanted to start an oral chemo agent, and the patient was, altered and, didn't have capacity, and we were kind of talking to, the family, but then the family was deciding between, going home with hospice, essentially, or, starting chemo. And eventually, the patient, went home with hospice, but, the team had kind of alluded to the fact that they still wanted to start the chemo, which we refused to do because it was chemo, and, no one had, signed consent for that, essentially. And the next day they ended up going back to hospice. So it kind of reminded me of that situation, where I thought that was kind of unethical, because the team wouldn't have expressed that, they wanted, the team wanted to start chemo if it was an IV chemo agent, or only an IV, or there's still chemo in a way. Yeah. So I thought that was it reminded me of a little unethical situation from the medical team a few months back.
Have you had anything where a patient has been like this about any sort of education, not chemo necessarily?
Not necessarily. I think, unfortunately, I'm kind of limited because the education I do nowadays is warfarin. And that's so few and far between now. So, no, personally, I haven't really run into the situation.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What if the setting of the question was different? This was just a friend or family member who was talking to you about something, and then they said, stop talking about it. Mm-hmm. How does that impact your response?
I mean, I think that, it depends, if they really are gonna, start a medication, and they're just, I don't have, a legality to finish my education with them. But I'd want to know, okay, well, what are your concerns about it? Clearly something upset you. So, what is that? And how can I, better explain it to you? Because maybe I just didn't explain it to you in, a patient sense, in a, basically I don't know how else to say this, dumb it down enough.
What if it wasn't a medication? What if it was just, any random topic?
I guess then, it kind of depends then. I think maybe I'm prying a lot if it were a medication, because I know I'm trained for that.
Okay.
But if it weren't, and they just didn't want to talk about anything, then I kind of just have to respect how they're feeling and let them cool down and then kind of address it later.
Okay. Yeah. What knowledge or ability do you think this question is testing?
Let's see. So, I think maybe ability to identify what the source of frustration is, and try to identify ways to address what the actual problem is, which isn't kind of obvious.
Okay.